Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Queen is Dead. Today I have Amartya with me, and unfortunately, Dhruv and Sanjeev couldn't be on the pod because Dhruv hasn't watched. He's one of the few people that hasn't who hasn't watched the final season of Succession yet. And of course, it's already been spoiled for him. And Sanjeev is busy somewhere in Germany. So we'll be talking about the final season and mainly about the finale of Succession, one of the most highly regarded and critically acclaimed shows of our times.
I feel knocked out. I didn't sleep.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I just didn't see it coming.
For some of us, it's a sad day, but for others, it's Coronation Demolition Derby.
Hey guys,
Hi.
it's great that the family can support each other and stay strong through this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
I'm sad. And just thinking about how things will shake down.
There is a phrase called the water cooler show, right? The whole world talks about that show. That is a combination of compelling storylines as well as a weekly engagement with the show because you
Hmm.
need the engagement of the show to be drawn out, right? For
Exactly.
months on it.
It's basically like hanging out with your own fictional friends on a very casual
Exactly.
evening, right? Weekly.
I would
And
say,
I
yeah.
think that's hmm,
Except Game of Thrones world and Succession world are exactly very friendly. But okay.
yeah. But that's the thing that Succession, it always had this possibility of going on for far too long, right? Because if you look at the structure of Succession, we already know from the get-go, even the creators have been very vocal about this, that these characters are fundamentally, they are never going to change. They are they are like incapable of changing themselves, right?
Mhm.
Morally, ethically, whatever. Because they have been raised, as Masha says to Shiv in one of the earlier seasons of Succession, right? That he just made you, referring to Logan, obviously, that he just made you a playground and that just became your entire world, something along those lines. So we
Exactly.
already know from the get-go that these people, the Roy kids, the Roy siblings, aren't going to change. But what
I'll
the
cite.
show does,
I will
what
also cite a real life
hmm,
example here because
hmm,
Succession never references COVID.
exactly. Like even with season three,
Yeah,
we knew what all production troubles the entire team went through.
yeah,
But it was just
because
handled so yeah.
because that
Hmm.
was the whole point. These people are so rich.
It's anyways not going to
Even a
yeah,
pandemic is not going
not
to
going to
affect them.
touch them. It's basically like that one scene in the penultimate episode, Church and State, of the final season, where
Yeah.
they are sitting in their limo, okay, heading to their father's funeral, and there's this massive erupting protest outside because of whatever fascist leader that they are basically given the election, right, given it
Hmm.
away. And there's this massive erupting protest outside, and some of those protesters hit the window of the limo. And their only reaction to that, the only inconvenience that they would ever face, probably for what they did a night before, a night previously, is
Hmm.
just that startling to reality. Ki, oh no, oh, what happened? Am I okay? That's just, it's just that. It's
Hmm.
just lasted for like 5-10 seconds, then they're okay
Hmm.
because they know
Hmm.
it's not going to touch them. And that's what the show does so brilliantly, especially Jesse Armstrong, the creator of the show, that he knows that the audience also acknowledges that these characters aren't going to change. So what he does so brilliantly is that he constantly keeps changing the circumstances around the
Hmm.
characters, right? But it's always going to be a kind of show that you you can expect it to go on forever because politics keeps on going forever. Business is always going to go on. But then deciding and willing to end your show at the right time when it is at its prime, right?
Hmm.
I think that requires another level of like
That requires
integrity.
guts. That
Yeah,
requires guts.
exactly. It's like acknowledging your audience and having that artistic integrity. And Armstrong has told, if I'm not wrong, that after this show, I'll just go and hibernate and just go in some hiding and be with myself for a while. And obviously, recently, Jesse Armstrong said this, and who's who plays Kendall Roy? Oh God,
Jeremy Strong.
Jeremy Strong, right? Huh, so I said it right, yeah. Jeremy Strong also said this that for a year I'm just going to go away somewhere, and after that he's apparently coming up with some Broadway play. So I think it's a testament to how great this show is. And let's just get to the third episode, which basically, as we had talked earlier, is basically the inciting incident of spoilers, but Logan's death. And what did you think of how? What did you think of the way it was played in the show?
That episode affected me so much. I wrote an essay in 20 minutes.
Hmm. Okay, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even remotely kidding.
Hmm.
Uh, that essay does two things. Number one,
Hmm.
it humanizes some of the most horrible people we have ever seen to screen.
Hmm.
Because even these horrible, completely ruthless people who
Hmm.
don't have a shred of empathy in their body, even these people can experience loss.
Hmm.
Even these people are so lost. And the loss is felt especially by these kids because
Hmm.
each and every one of their decisions, each and every one of their choices is
Hmm.
informed by the
Hmm.
trauma they have faced on while growing up with Logan Roy. Their
Hmm.
father had informed every single bit of their choice to the extent that I don't think they can even identify which choice is their original choice anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
So by putting Logan off the board,
Hmm.
you immediately introduce a conflict which should have happened ages ago. It
Yeah.
was teased in the first episode itself.
In the title of the show itself.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
teased in the first episode itself.
Yeah.
But you remove him, and you remove him at such a pivotal moment. And
Hmm.
now the question arises:
Hmm.
what are these kids going to do?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because that lifeline is gone. Now these
Yeah.
kids have now these kids have two options. Either they continue to respond to the trauma of growing up with Logan Roy and
Hmm.
acting all douchey, perhaps even more douchey,
Hmm.
or they can become self-aware about it and they can
Hmm.
try to go in a new direction, or they can get out of it altogether. To do anything different.
Hmm.
The problem is twofold, and that is the tragedy of all of these characters.
Hmm.
None of these characters can ever get out of the vicious cycles.
Yeah.
The only way Logan Roy ever got out of his vicious cycle, because Logan Roy, I'm going to bring a Godfather 2 reference here.
Hmm.
Logan Roy is Hyman Roth.
Hmm.
If you remember who Hyman Roth is, Hyman
Hmm.
Roth was kind of sort of Michael Corleone's mentor in Cuba when
Hmm.
Michael Corleone was going to expand his business empire into Cuba.
Okay.
Hyman Roth
Hmm.
wanted Michael Corleone to, you know, kind of sort of take over his business
Hmm.
after he dies.
Hmm.
The problem with Hyman Roth is the same
Hmm.
problem which Logan Roy faces.
Hmm.
It is Hyman Roth thinks that he's going to live forever.
Hmm.
That's why he's going to play the game, each and every game, every time, so that he always comes out on top.
Hmm.
Even though he wants a successor, he still thinks that all of his decisions will ultimately matter because he's the only one who is the boss. Logan
Hmm.
Roy has the same issue.
Hmm.
The issue is compounded because Logan Roy states emphatically in season two's last episode 2 last scene
Hmm.
that you are not serious people.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is the one line that is going to reverberate throughout the season.
Hmm.
They are not serious
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
They are
Hmm.
not serious people because they only know how to imitate their father. Each and every choices they make is decided on what would dad do.
And how do they now seek for his validation from beyond the grave, right?
From beyond the grave, yeah.
Yeah.
What would dad do? That is the only point. What would dad
Hmm.
do? Now that
Hmm.
your dad is gone,
Hmm.
what do you think your dad is going to do? You don't know that,
And no
right?
matter how much they don't want to realize it yet, there's always a more grounded, a more human character, like, say, Jerry or whoever, who would bring that up, right? In like
Exactly.
private with Roman or say Kendall.
Hmm.
Yeah, that what would your father do? Would he do the
But none
same
of these
thing?
characters, but even the subordinate characters, they are not even grounded. That is the
Hmm.
bigger issue here for these
Hmm.
characters. I'm saying issue we
Hmm.
shouldn't be empathizing with these characters in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think what you said, that Logan was always ruthless, and he always thought that he was going to be very extremely invincible. I think the show starts humanizing Logan right from the first episode of the final season, the fourth season itself,
Yes, yes.
when that goddamn conversation at that resto bar, right?
Yeah, that I know. Yeah.
With his bodyguard at the diner. It shows signs of a man that is beginning to comprehend he's beginning to see that whatever he thought, that life is this, that I am always going to be untouched by death or anything because I have this certain power and money, that facade is starting to cripple a bit.
Yeah.
And even in the episode where the last conversation that they have, the kids and their father, I think it's at a this pub or
Karaoke bar.
something,
Yeah.
karaoke bar, right? So after that, even when he's outside walking, he looks at he looks at someone and he just utters something to Marcia. No, what was the name of his girlfriend
Kerry,
in the
I
end?
think Kerry,
Kerry,
Kerry.
Kerry, yeah, yeah. So he says something to her that why are all these people here? It makes me feel sick or something like that. I think this just him acknowledging other people around the street like that, it in itself showed a sign of a man at the at his in his late stage, where he was beginning to see that maybe I am vulnerable to these external changes. And I think this is my theory, that I think that's precisely why he went ahead with the Gojo deal, because he did not want any of his kids or anyone to screw up his legacy. I think that in itself says a lot about Logan as a character, as the giant megalomaniac head of this media conglomerate that he built, this business empire that he built.
Fox
and
News.
and that's and again, you bring that up, and it's so timely because it's so brilliant
it's
what
it's
these writers
coincidental.
have done.
It's coincidentally hilarious. Also, the real world
It is
situation what is going on
exactly.
with
It is
Fox
so
News.
it's so overlapping, and it's so brilliant how the creators and the writers incorporate the entire Fox Dominion lawsuit debacle that's been happening lately into this narrative, while also even in the last episode, it's just been hinted at that maybe Mencken won't win, maybe because of what's going on in the Wisconsin courts and all these court orders. Maybe it's not definite that he would win, but the damage has already been done. It also echoes what happened in 2020, right, in America. And it's the creator saying that even if he doesn't win, it's already been done, the damage has already been done. And these kids, the very fact that they went ahead with this extremely unethical thing, that in itself should scare you. And the entire looming threat of the Swedes, the outsiders, quote unquote outsiders, coming over and having this puppet regime or a puppet guy uh, install him in power and just pull all the strings. I think that is saying something very telling about a superpower that, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's how.
yeah. I think you can fill in the gaps.
I don't
Yeah,
want to get too explicit about whatever is
yeah. You
happening
can fill
around.
in the gaps. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the brilliance of the show. And even in the penultimate episode, Church and State, the entire the way that the entire eulogy is handled, right? And
I think one of the
the
bigger way.
episode,
I think one of the bigger ways in which
hmm,
Logan was humanized, quote unquote,
hmm,
is his older brother Ewan's speech explaining
precisely, yeah,
how they were raised.
yeah, and how he always carried this guilt of bringing polio with him, and probably as a result of which his sister died, right?
Yeah,
Hmm,
which also makes you remember one
hmm,
remember Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street. Uh,
hmm,
in Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, played by
hmm,
Leonardo DiCaprio, in a
hmm,
hugely entertaining macho speech to his
hmm,
subordinates in the
hmm,
office,
hmm,
he says, screaming, I
hmm,
have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I
hmm,
will choose to be a rich man every effing time.
hmm,
Why do you think that is? Because unless you have seen poverty from up close,
hmm.
you won't understand the hard scrabble nature of actually trying to hold capitalism in a vice.
Exactly.
Logan Roy was always in a unique position in which he actually commanded power.
Hmm.
Of course, he was never going to let it go.
Hmm.
Why do you think he says to his kids that they are not serious people? Again, I'm not supporting Logan Roy. He was a
Hmm.
monster. His
Hmm.
kids are also monsters.
But he was great at being the monster.
Yeah, he was great at being
Yeah.
the monster. And his kids are monsters with no
Real
groundings of
aim.
their own. With
Hmm.
no groundings of their own.
Yeah.
Because they haven't
I'm
seen
it's
a
so
worldview.
ironic. It's so ironic that when Kendall says that I'm the cog in the wheel, he doesn't realize that he's the cog in the wheel that his father made him.
Exactly.
It's so yeah.
He's the cog in the wheel.
Hmm.
He thinks that he can only be this.
Yeah.
He can never be something else. The
Hmm.
tragedy is he never, you know, got time to think about whether he could be something else.
Yeah.
That
And
is the bigger tragedy.
we have seen how water has always acted like a source of pervasive like symbolism throughout Kendall's arc, right? I mean, I don't think there's ever been an arc. We already knew that his character would end up facing this ultimate tragedy, but the way that entire water symbolism has been used, even in the end, the last frame, the last shot of Succession, even that implies that maybe it's up to you. Is it going to be now a sign of his impending doom, or is it going to be his savior? Like, is he going to spiritually save himself? And I think the biggest tragedy of Succession, and especially of Kendall's entire character arc, lies in how, for him, the tragedy is that he couldn't become his father, and he couldn't embrace whatever his father's legacy did, and he couldn't step in into the same position for long. But we, as the viewer, because we are not in that playground that Logan Roy built for his kids, because we have this oversight view, because we're looking at that playground from way above, we have that eagle's eye view. That's why we know that actually the tragedy of Succession is that he can't see through it. That even though he is the one out of all the Roy kids, out of everyone who truly understands, who truly knows how evil Logan Roy was, he still wants to cheese it. And that's the biggest tragedy of Succession. And I think, again, I know it's probably I'm stretching this for too long, but Succession as a show, we have been so used to watching cinematic shows in recent years because of this inevitable overlap that's been happening between television and movies, right? Between cinema, because of the budgets. We know how budgets of a lot of these contemporary TV shows are, right? So it's so inevitable for fans and for the TV audience to expect something cinematic out of TV shows as well. Whatever we saw with the entire fandom of Game of Thrones, and whatever happened since that, right? All the Marvel stepping in into the same game, and DC and whatever. So since that, people expect tuning into their TV, and even while watching TV, they want to, be delighted by that visual grand spectacle. But Succession always promised that it is always going to stick committed to this episodic narrative arc of what television is, right? And it makes the most cinematic moment out of just people passing through cabins and writing like letters to each other, whatever, calling each other through cabins and shouting. It's so brilliant, and I think the final season, and especially the finale, I think it truly solidifies its place as one of the best television shows in recent history, at least.
I think one of the reasons why, because sticking the landing is very tough.
Hmm.
I think Succession sticks the landing because it doesn't try to be anything it isn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the reasons why I'm also comparing it to the Sopranos is
Hmm.
because I think the Sopranos and Succession is very similar.
Hmm.
Sopranos also used to be a show which is very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Every show,
Hmm.
every show promised its climax in the final episode of the final season, right?
Hmm.
Sopranos was one of the first in, like in the second season, Soprano killed off its main villains within the sixth episode.
Hmm.
He just killed him off
Hmm.
because that's the whole point of the anticlimax.
Hmm.
Sopranos kills the main villain off, and then
Hmm.
the show is exploring the fallout.
Hmm.
The finale of Sopranos is one of the most talked about finales of all time because
Mm,
it just ends.
mm,
It just ends.
mm,
Tony Soprano is having coffee with his family.
mm,
They are talking in a cafe. Tony's sipping the coffee. He looks up.
mm,
This is the door open. He looks up and then the screen fades to black.
mm,
That's it.
mm.
That's the end.
And I think that's why people, the way these great shows toy with our TV brains by when Kendall goes up the elevator, right? When he enters the elevator, a lesser show would make you expect that probably he's going to the terrace because we've always had these sceneries of Kendall either being in water bodies or heading straight up to the balconies or whatever terrace.
Mhm.
So as a lesser show would expect you to, have a big dramatic moment like, oh, is he going to jump off the building or whatever? But then it just Jesse Armstrong even grounds that moment by having this random employee enter the elevator and then it shuts off. It's played so matter of factly, and yet it makes you feel so emotional. And I think even it's always easy to kill off your characters, okay? But making them live through whatever they have done, and that's precisely why one of my favorite TV show endings is Better Call Saul. I think that finale affected me even more than Breaking Bad's finale. And it's precisely this choice of letting your central protagonist, who your audience knows that he is very ethically, morally wrong and not a good person, Kendall, even though majority of people like Succession viewers root for Kendall right from the get-go, we somehow somewhere realize that he is not a good person. He literally killed off a person, and in the last final episode he admits that, oh no, it didn't happen. No, and
Because he falls, right?
echo
Because he
echo
falls.
echoing his father's own words and no real person involved.
Yeah,
No real
because he
person.
falls. Because he falls. That's the whole problem with Kendall, right? He
Hmm.
falls. He falls under pressure.
Yeah.
That happens in the America Decides episode as well.
Hmm.
When given the choice to select whether
To
they should
make a
go with
choice.
Mencken, yeah,
Make a choice.
whether they should go with Mencken or whether
Hmm.
they should not, he falls. He sits
Yeah.
down. He doesn't know what to do.
Hmm.
That has always been Kendall's Achilles heel. And
Hmm.
but also there is the thing that Succession has never been about fan
Hmm.
service.
Exactly.
The finale though was
Hmm.
almost teasing us from the get-go that maybe it is going to be like fan service because
Hmm.
all the siblings come together.
Oh God, that entire, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Sheep comes to know
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
Manson is, pushing her out. Manson
Hmm.
is installing a new American CEO,
Hmm.
and Shiv and Roman finally
Hmm.
decide that Kendall is more of the necessary evil in this scenario because if they
Hmm.
choose Kendall,
Hmm. Because of his history,
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Hmm.
if they choose Kendall,
Hmm.
they can at least keep the company within their own within
Hmm.
within the house,
Hmm.
so to speak.
Hmm.
So that is the only way, and then we see I don't know, heartwarming, cringy yet heartwarming moment of the siblings actually bonding,
Yeah. And
anointing
even again, see, Succession.
anointing him with a dear Lord, what a bad movie.
You do realize that
Yeah, Jeremy
Jeremy
Strong
Strong
actually draws
actually,
that movie.
I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not surprised. Of course, I'm not surprised, but still.
yeah.
But the thing is that what Succession has always done right from the get-go, what it has handled and executed so brilliantly, that it has just stripped off this balance of kind of being sitcom but also being a satire and a tragedy, like an actual prestige drama. And even in the final episode, that's precisely why I say that it upholds and further cements its place as one of the great shows of our time, because even in that little moment where we see all those all three siblings together bonding, and then they have this little chat with their mother, and then they are obviously making fun of her or whatever. But even in that little moment, it is almost nodding to this sitcom aspect of the entire show, right?
Mm.
And as the audience, because nothing good on quote unquote good last for long in succession, seeing watching that scene, that oh no, is the show again toying with my TV
Yes,
expectations, or is
they're
it
setting us up.
really the exactly? And the moment, as a like a careful viewer, the moment you see Ken take that dive, it's not going to end very well.
And also,
Yeah.
the fact that when Tom comes and tells Shiv that
Oh yeah.
he's the one
Hmm.
who is going to be the CEO,
Hmm.
and Shiv being angry,
Hmm.
for a fact that is the moment that things are going to go quote unquote
Hmm.
wrong.
Yeah.
Because Shiv as a character, I
Hmm.
strongly believe that Shiv as a character is far more indecisive than even the other two of them. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
she thinks herself smart. I think I wrote it that she
Hmm.
thinks herself that she's the shark
Hmm.
in a
Hmm.
in a ocean full of sharks. She thinks herself she's also a shark, but
Hmm.
actually she's a minnow.
Hmm.
She's just a salmon. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
so that's what she is.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, there are lots of people who are questioning that during the board meeting in the vote,
Hmm.
why did Shiv Roy
Hmm.
choose against Kendall?
Hmm.
There are people who are saying that Shiv Roy chose against Kendall because she knows for a fact that Kendall could not be able to handle it.
It's not
You
just that.
you
So
really
exactly.
think
Yeah.
that woman is that
Hmm.
altruistic that she's actually thinking about her brother's well-being? Are you
Yeah.
people serious?
Hmm.
That woman
Hmm.
couldn't couldn't stand the fact
Yeah.
that Kendall Roy actually has a legitimate shot at getting the throne.
Yeah.
Number one. Number
Hmm.
two, this is also a woman who has
Hmm.
kept it a secret throughout the season that she is pregnant.
Yeah.
She only chose to divulge that in the eighth episode to Tom
Hmm.
and in the ninth episode to
Hmm.
her brothers.
Hmm.
Before that, nobody knew.
Yeah.
So even within that moment,
Hmm.
when given a choice, she
Hmm.
chooses to look after her own. So
Yeah.
she chooses
Hmm.
to become a quote unquote kingmaker,
Hmm.
a subordinate to the king
Hmm.
who finally becomes the king
Hmm.
simply because of her installation. She didn't
Hmm.
intend to, but she actually forced Matson to reconsider.
Hmm.
So
And
she,
again, leaving her at a man's mercy with all
yeah,
these things. Yeah.
which
Hmm.
is like hilariously hilarious.
Yeah.
So
And that's the reason. I think the biggest reason why she considers herself to be a shark swimming in an ocean is because she has been fundamentally wired this way of redirecting her aims and being this indecisive person, because she's always been thrown off by these powerful men at top, and she's always left stumbling for pieces, right? Because whenever Logan promised her the position of the CEO, she knew that she deserved it more than probably Kendall or Roman. But then again, just by the virtue of being a
again,
woman,
the quote unquote factor is she knew.
yeah.
None of them are capable. You realize?
Mhm. Of course, and that's what I think. The show brilliantly acknowledges that, and seeing Roman reinforce that, and him being the person who reinforces that, because he himself, the penultimate episode literally starts with Roman being on top of his
Yes.
house, penthouse, or whatever it was, and practicing his eulogy speech that apparently he thought that would go very well, and he would like
If
woo
this
the
was, if
president
this
and
was,
everyone. And then the episode literally ending with him in the ground with
yes,
almost a stampede like situation, because he is the only one who has went through some semblance of a character arc out of these three stupid siblings. He's the one who acknowledges that it was bullshit. That
he
promise it to
acknowledges
you,
that in the
that
end, right?
promise
In
it
that
to
meltdown,
yeah,
he acknowledges it.
exactly.
This is
Yeah.
all bullshit. You are bullshit. We are bullshit. I am bullshit. Everybody is bullshit. And I'm like, not exactly eloquent, but okay, yeah, we get your point. Took you 4 seasons, but you got it. Yeah.
And just seeing Kendall sit like that down, and it's realize, by the way, have did you see that Vanity Fair, Mark My Lord, where he breaks down the third episode?
No, I haven't seen it.
So in that, he says that the entire scene where Kendall goes on searching his sister to inform her about her dad's
Mm-hmm.
news, right? That entire scene was actually improvised, and Jeremy Strong was actually, he didn't know where Sarah Snook was, and he was actually finding her like that, roaming around the cruise. And it's so brilliant the way the entire cast and crew of Succession always knew how to collaborate. It's because television, unlike a film, it is a creative process. It is always going to be a creator's, there's always going to be a creator's stronghold over it. But it is a much more collaborative process. And I think it is, I mean, this entire show was freaking shot on film. Can you
Yeah,
comprehend that? How often are we going to see that anymore?
the I think if we get back to the finale for even a second, right?
Hmm.
Because there are a couple of characters we need to talk, and then we need to finally talk what the end actually means.
Hmm.
Because Tom, the
Hmm.
character of Tom,
Hmm.
the character of Tom always will elicit out of us
Hmm.
two simultaneous feelings.
Hmm.
We will root for Tom, we will also feel disgust at him
Hmm.
because he's a person who doesn't belong in this family, right? He
Hmm.
he's the outsider,
Hmm.
but he also shows that
Hmm.
to get power, he's ready to get inside the mud as much
Hmm.
as them just
Hmm.
to prove that he's loyal.
Hmm.
So there is like, if people want to compare which of them has the least spine out of the two
Hmm.
of them, whether it is Tom or Greg, I think
Hmm.
that's a hard question to answer, which of them has the least spine, because both of
Hmm.
them are pretty spineless. So
Hmm.
I think if people are, and this is also so weird
But
that
Tom,
people are looking
the
at people are looking at Succession like
hmm.
it's a competition, and I'm like, you people did
It's
not
all
learn from
about
watching
power
Game of Thrones.
dynamics.
You
Yeah.
people did not learn anything by watching Game of Thrones, right?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
throne was not the point. The throne got fucking melted.
Yeah.
The throne was never the point.
Hmm.
So yeah, so Tom winning isn't actually winning. It's not a decisive victory.
Exactly, because it is so clearly implied that he is just going to be a puppet for Madsen. And again, it's so, the more I've thought about, the more I mulled over the last episode, the more I appreciated it. And it is funny because I already loved it the moment it ended, but still I just keep having more appreciation for it, because that in that moment where at the start of the episode Shiv implies to Madsen that maybe she wants to have Tom some position, right? So she just implies that he can do whatever you want. He's just a puppet, so he's very irrelevant. He's just a cog. It won't really matter. Easily
I'm pretty
replaceable,
sure the way she
and
worded it was far more explicit. But yeah,
and the way Matson turns that against her by literally replacing her with her husband. It's so and the
I distinctly remember the
reply.
phrase. I distinctly remember the phrase. Instead of the baby mama, I will hire the man who put the baby inside. I'm like, Jesus
And again, it's
Christ.
so fantastic that even with all these power dynamics unrolling, the show is already implying Shiv's pregnancy is already acting as an impending doom of another tragedy in the name of succession that is already underway. It's already starting to see its reverberations in this in Vesta Royco, right? Because basically one of the other reasons why Shiv chooses to be this kingmaker is because she knows that my son, my daughter, whatever, he or she is going to be next in the line. And she's also securing her legacy, her heritage because of this. And that's why it's so brilliant, because it works on all levels. All these character moments, all these little nuance moments that you have, it all makes very, as you mentioned after the third episode, right, that natural progression of storytelling. This show understands that like no other contemporary show, in my opinion, because even if you look at Tom's character arc, right from the get go, he knew when to take the right step. He knew what makes these people around him vulnerable. He knew when to step in and do whatever he wanted to do to secure his own position. He confessed to marry. He proposed to Shiv during when her father was admitted, and when he saw that she's vulnerable, she's in a emotionally vulnerable spot. That's where he proposed to her. And the moment he saw this opportunity that Shiv might be the promised heir, that Logan has had this conversation with Shiv that he might be, putting her in this position of being the next CEO. The moment uh, Tom recognizes this, he starts supporting Shiv like he never did before. And he starts supporting every decision that she makes. And after that, the moment he sees vulnerability in Shiv, what does he do? He betrays her wife
He
without a
betrays them.
flinch
Yeah,
and goes to Logan, right? At the end of
yeah,
season three. It's because he has been so loyal and replaceable, quote unquote replaceable, and very vigilant about what just being a very, noble guy. Not a noble guy, but someone who do get the things done. Okay, without being a headache for anyone at the top. Just because of that, it made sense for him to become the CEO.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also, I think we are covering it. I think we have covered most of it, right? So if
Hmm.
we are going to wrap this up,
Hmm.
I think one of the key things to take away from this finale is very simple.
Hmm.
If this was a lesser show,
Hmm.
there are ample amounts of way this show can continue. I can guarantee you
Exactly. Yeah. As I
because
said, business and politics, it's always going to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is inevitably going to be a conflict between Tom and Maxwell, which could be
Hmm.
explored.
Hmm.
Kendall is now alone. Kendall can move. Kendall is going to regroup. Kendall is going to do
Hmm.
something or the other. Kendall is going to partner with Stewie. He's going
Hmm.
to do something to get
Hmm.
back again because according to him, he's the eldest boy. He's the only one who can do this. Which, by the way,
Hmm.
that meltdown was hilarious. But
Hmm.
yeah, so he's the
and
eldest boy.
him doing literally whatever his abusive father did to Roman, right?
Yes,
Abusing
exactly.
him physically. And
Yeah,
saying that was very, yeah.
yeah. It's generational trauma and
Hmm.
cyclic and the cyclical violence. Basically,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
that's all it is.
Hmm.
So if it was a lesser show,
Hmm.
there are ample ways to continue.
Yeah.
It can go on and on and on.
Hmm.
And what does Jesse Armstrong do? Jesse Armstrong just looks at you, takes your hand,
Hmm.
and just says to you, "That's enough of that.
Yeah.
We have done enough. We
Hmm.
have seen enough.
Hmm.
Now we can walk away."
Hmm. Hmm.
Because these people,
Hmm.
they have changed all they can.
Hmm.
We don't need to see it anymore.
Yeah.
We are done. I am
Hmm.
done.
Yeah.
This
Because
has,
even after a point, I think it was in season three where at a point I realized that how often are we going to see these characters being put in this, like, not same but similar situations, right? Because after a point, Succession has had this thing that all the events, all the big events are always a facade to, circumvent or to pass some kind of a deal. So whether it's
hmm,
a wedding or any private party, cruise
hmm,
party, that amazing episode from season two, it's always an excuse to make sure that a deal goes underway. So
exactly.
how long can you stretch that out? You don't want to make this show like,
Honestly, if you look at it from the perspective of any other company, you can
hmm,
stretch it out for a pretty long time. To be very honest, you can.
yeah,
The question is,
hmm,
how much impactful would the story have been? That is the
hmm,
bigger question. Because
hmm,
creatively you are at the height of your powers,
hmm,
and it is always said that go out when you're at your peak, go
yeah,
out when you know that the time is right.
hmm, hmm,
And I honestly think that Jesse Armstrong taking the choice to get out when the time is right, at this point it just works because
hmm,
this is closure without actually attempting to close out anything. This is
hmm,
just closure by saying all of these characters, maybe they have understood something, but
hmm,
their character arcs are going to be so incremental because at the end of the day, they're
hmm,
still in that bubble. They're
hmm,
still in that
hmm,
bubble of wealth and privilege.
hmm.
Their
Still playing
lust for
around in that playground.
yeah, their lust for power is so profound
Hmm.
that they won't understand anything
Hmm.
until they're too late.
Hmm.
Because just imagine for a second, if the death of your father, the one of the
Hmm.
biggest crucibles of your life, if the death of your father can't change you, what else is going to?
Did you think that that entire footage that they see of Logan with everyone on the board around that board meeting, did you think that it was a bit too much? That seemed like something that
Kind of,
Armstrong was going for, like, yo, this is the finale. We need to have one of these very touchy moments. So
kind
it
of,
was
yes.
it was that moment. Obviously, I was very emotional watching that, but it was that one moment and this other scene where Matson is like screaming off and shouting at everyone, "Let's go!" I think those two moments, I was like, he's like going at it, like this is the finale, this is it. That's what he was going at, and I think it's
I'm
just those two
I'm just
moments where I
glad.
was.
I'm just glad that the finale didn't spend too much time on Matson or anything else. The finale spent time on the siblings because at the end of the day, those three siblings were the most important people in the whole
Mhm.
family.
Yeah.
And Connor, I'm sorry that Connor. I'm sorry about Connor.
Again, one of the more underwhelming aspects about this entire show, and especially this final season, has been of how irrelevant. I mean, I know anyone could say that was the
No,
point, but how
I mean,
irrelevant
yeah.
Connor's presidency felt. Don't you
No,
think?
but that was the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Connor's
But
presidency being
no, it
irrelevant
was
is
the whole
also
point. But giving that entire subplot, that amount of screen time in the final season, that seemed irrelevant for me. And
yeah. But
again,
again,
yeah,
it also kind of, because America decides that episode was kind of like a a traumatic snapshot into the
yeah.
2016 election.
Hmm.
In a way, Connor's presidency also felt like, what if Donald Trump failed?
Hmm. So it made sure that there's also worse players that could,
Yes.
which is funny. Yeah,
Yeah, which is funnier
yeah.
because when Connor fails,
Hmm.
he starts espousing rhetoric which kind of sounds like something you would see in a YouTube comment section, which is
Hmm.
just okay, man.
And I know from what I've seen, from most of what I've seen, people have been like going absolutely crazy behind Kiran Culkin's performance in this final season. But for me, it was, for like, without even flinching, for me, the best performance throughout this entire season. Like every episode that Sarah Snook was in, which is like
Yeah,
obviously all the episodes, I think she deserves an Emmy for each episode. I think she was a fantastic. Her character arc, I think she was the central protagonist in this final season
I
because
think her character, of course, her character didn't change that much because at the
yeah.
end of the day, whatever she did to
Hmm.
further her own self. So in a way, her
Hmm.
character didn't change that much,
Yeah.
but her character also exhibited, an ability to keep secrets.
Hmm.
Something I don't think her two brothers ever showed that ability.
Hmm.
Keeping secrets isn't exactly Kendall's forte,
Hmm.
if you know what I mean from the start of the second season. Keeping secrets isn't his forte,
Hmm.
and keeping secrets isn't Roman's forte either.
Hmm. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Blowing up satellites and all. Do you think
Yes.
now, after finally having closed the Gojo deal, do you think Matson would care to correct his India numbers? Or is it like
I
still
mean,
going to
I
be
mean,
to
look at it from.
India's?
I mean, look at it from. I mean, look at it from this perspective. Look at
Yeah,
it from this perspective. We have seen countless of mergers of streaming services and studios and everything else.
yeah.
We have heard lots and lots of faulty numbers and everything. Do you think they made any effort to change those numbers? Nope.
On that note, listeners, you
Yes.
can watch Succession on Geo Cinema. So, of course, I'm not. Yeah, that's what I'll say. And whatever your thoughts are on the final season and the final episode of Succession, let us guys know. Follow us on Queen is Dead, and you can follow Amartya on Amartya25.
Yeah.
And you can follow me if you want on Aryan Talks Films. And please listen, share, like, and forward this episode to all your Succession fans, because this is the only thing that you would have from next Monday to look forward to. So I hope that you guys have
Unless
a.
unless you people are fans of Sam Levinson's and you really want to see the weekend and Lily Rose Depp. doing shit.
Okay, I
So
actually am interested in that because I need to like balance out all this trauma after having watched Barry and Succession
I mean, to
on
be
the
fair,
same day.
let's be honest that show got a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm really not
Oh,
that
it's it premiered at Cannes, right?
Khan. Yeah, it
Yeah,
made
yeah.
it Khan, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So whoever is looking forward to that, I'm sure I will watch it. But yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Have fun. Take care. Khatam. Have fun.